Uncovering Crypto.
Talk about illuminating the blockchain. Today on Coloring Crypto, we've got a lineup of 3 guests ranging in topics from blockchain, artificial intelligence, culture, women in crypto, thought leaders, psychedelics, and Tulum. Our guests today are Michelle Tsng, who just came up with a trending list of thought leaders in crypto, Crystal Rose with Sensay, and Daniel Shanken with the CryptoPsychedelic conference happening in Tulum very soon, February 2nd through 4th. First, hailing from Blockchain Beach, Crystal Rose is a lifelong entrepreneur. She learned to code at age 11. So she's the co-founder and CEO of Sensay, an AI communications platform, and Sense, a blockchain protocol. Sensay has raised $21 million in capital, and most recently completed a successful ICO for the Sense digital token. Unlike many of the new tokens we hear about these days, they've already got an established user base. Crystal's been traveling the world lately, speaking at crypto conferences and autographing white papers. Truly. Let's start with her first exposure to the blockchain. Do you recall the very first time you heard of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency? Where were you and what were you doing?
Yeah, I was in my office. So I had a company that I had started here in Los Angeles, and it was a digital media company. And I had developers that worked with me. And this was, I started the company in the early 2000s. At this point, we had an office in 2009. And through 2009, 2010, my developer would run his computer overnight. And I thought that he was pirating music or illegal software. So I confronted him, and he told me, actually, no, I'm mining Bitcoin, and explained what this thing was. And that explained all the sort of weird looking little devices that he had. And at one point, he was getting 1 Bitcoin with frequency, a whole one, and so he would or a whole block, which is like 12.5 Bitcoin. So he eventually said, these things are trading for a couple dollars, and he explained it to me. And he went off to go start a startup. He had gotten funded in New York, and I remember getting the phone call one day when it was at $40, and him saying, drop everything, put everything that you have into this, get rid of all of your stocks, and participate. And at that time I was like, oh man, I remember when it was like $2. It's so expensive now.
Yeah.
But I had followed along with it, and I thought that it was a better bet than, betting on Sony and Toshiba to fight it out for HD DVD and Blu-ray. So I did participate, and throughout the next couple of years as it went up, we definitely saw a lot of volatility. I think 2014 is when I started making another really big, meaningful move into it, as my now co-founder and I created a hack at the launch hackathon in San Francisco, where we built an anonymous file sharing application that allowed you to unlock the files with Bitcoin. And so that, at that point, I think it was like $120, maybe $150. And that was really the big push, and where we learned a lot about building on top of blockchain technology. And I think it was the spark moment for me was when I realized that the underlying technology was going to radically transform everything beyond just the financial institutions.
When you said, that your former employee had a startup and said put everything in Bitcoin, it was at 40, that's kind of a visionary statement, though. Not a lot of people were thinking what you just said at that time.
Yeah, I had a lot of different stocks, and I had mutual funds and all of the traditional investment methods. I had a 401k. I've since cashed out literally everything involved with that, because for me, those were not exciting if you were doing them in a day trade fashion. And that wasn't really my passion. I just wanted to, I wanted to support technology, first of all. And that's why my primary investments were in technology companies. And I just didn't see them moving very quickly. And at one point I did get involved in angel investing. I started angel investing through AngelList. So as I've started my own companies, I've been fortunate to sell companies and have money to be able to put into other people, other founders. And so I started investing on AngelList as well, but those are also very long-term investments. and it's just not as fun. So,
Huh.
in terms of that, this was more at the beginning. It was more like, I'm not really sure. I'm not certain where this is going to go if it's just cryptocurrency. But it was when we started to play with the blockchain and understand that the underlying technology is the new internet. The way that data is transferred is radically going to transform everything from deeds to houses, to education systems and healthcare. It really became apparent once we started coding on the actual technology.
You come from a development background, right?
Yes, I've been coding since I was 11. So technology is my first passion. Then I moved into design. I went to school for design.
What was it like at 11 years old? Did you have other friends that were coding? Were they all boys, or were you the only girl? I'm just curious.
I'm unsure the gender of a lot of my friends because they were mostly in anonymous chat rooms
Uh huh.
online.
Funny,
um,
right?
I learned how to code first. The first language was HTML through an AOL chat room, actually, because I was working on building a website. And progressively, the internet taught me more than I could have ever possibly gotten with an institutional education. And I think once I started getting into the actual events, which was more, when I was like 16 and I started my first company, that's when I learned that I was one of a few girls who would ever be at these events, especially hackathons. I would at some points be the only female entered into a hackathon.
Was
And
it was
and
it
I
people like me asking you this question? Hey, how does it feel to be, like, or did you notice it
also,
yourself? Like, how did that kind of come into your awareness?
it was external observation.
Yeah,
I had always looked at everyone as equal. I
yeah.
never really thought about it. No guy ever made me feel weird about being a woman either. I know that a lot of women have had that experience, and I think it's unfortunate, but it didn't occur to me for a really long time. And it actually occurred to me only when I started getting invited to speak at women's only events. And I thought it was weird that the women separated themselves and went into their own place and then pushed the boys out. It was like these two different clubs almost. So I'd love to find a way where we can collaborate a little more and put everyone together, and understand that there is no gender when it comes to digital and technology. There just isn't.
We're kind of talking about, the blockchain is the new internet. So now think of, like, our newbie listeners. Can you think of an example to illustrate that?
Yeah, so I think all broken incumbent systems include some sort of middleman, which becomes a gatekeeper for information. And information is really the most valuable thing that we have. In terms of humans, the most valuable thing that we have is our connection to each other and our ability to exchange stories, on a very root fundamental level. And so information is like gold. Like data is the new gold mine. And when you have an intermediary stepping in between the information transfer, that's where things get complicated. So, as an example, in healthcare systems, every institution holds your data in a centralized database without talking to the other institutions and without you having control over it. So, you don't have one place where your health data exists, nor do you even have control over how it's used. And because of that, it causes inefficiencies in the system. You'll go to one hospital and do a blood test, and then if you are transferred to another hospital, they'll do the same blood test because the two hospitals don't talk. And it costs a lot of money. They're stepping on top of it to charge the insurance companies. It costs a lot of time. It's just these inefficiencies can be 100% mitigated by doing pure data transfer through the blockchain. So you have an instant connection from the data source and provider and the data receiver. So really, that's you should control all of your data, and I think that's the number one fundamental thing about blockchain that's important. If you look at money is the original illusion. Money is the biggest illusion ever told to humans. And currently, the way that money works as it moves digital, we're understanding more that it's about numbers in a database than it is about a physical device that we exchange. And so we have the same issue with the intermediaries that are stepping on those numbers, like the banks. So blockchain, I think, enables you to be the owner of your own data and the owner of your own money. You become your own bank. So long as we can come up with the right technologies for this and wrap them with enough security.
I love it. Okay, so now, Crystal, give me your assessment of how the blockchain is doing with that vision in mind.
I think that we're doing a good job. We're moving very quickly. I think it's very attractive to build products that service the financial industry because those are the ones that clearly make the most money the most rapidly. The biggest challenge that we have are the devices that we have today. So we're still not all the way there. The cell phones that we have, like, as an example, from winning that original hackathon in 2012, I had on my phone 200 Bitcoin in a wallet. And when I lost my phone, I lost those Bitcoin. And so I think that there is a bit of a flaw in the devices that we have today. And also that, the best backup method for storage of a wallet is a paper wallet that goes into a safe. So we're kind of going a little bit archaic here. So I think that that's the only thing. Technology just has to catch up. Blockchain is so advanced, and it really represents an entire restructuring of the core of the internet. I mean, it's Internet 3.0, and I think that people have yet to really wrap their heads around where the potential is. Today, it's still very, very early. It's infantile. It's small. I think we have 5 billion mobile devices, capable of connecting together today. And recently, this year, in 2017, the estimates from Cambridge and MIT were that at the beginning of the year, there were 5 million crypto wallets, right? So that represents like 0.1% of the total amount of devices that there are on the planet. And
Wow.
and at the end of the year, given that Coinbase was pulling in about 100K new users a day, especially when they peaked on the Apple Store, the estimate's something more like 50 million. And even that is 1%. So if you think about the total saturation globally of the amount of crypto users, we're still so small and so new that I feel like at this point, until we hit that $1 trillion market cap, we're probably not even close to a tipping point. And even then, the entire blockchain space could, has the potential to expand into literally every industry. Until the entire global GDP is in cryptocurrency, we're not done.
Tell us about your company. Tell us about Sensay, and I'm particularly interested in the origin idea and what problem you were originally solving.
Yeah, so Sensay started over 3 years ago now, about 3.5 years ago. And the core mission of Sensay was really to connect everyone together to exchange value on a very basic level. And we wanted to do that directly. So we wanted to do that without intermediaries. And when we started, the best format that we had for that was SMS. So we wanted to take those billions of devices that are out there and essentially decentralize your contact list. So connect people together based on what they know and what they can share that's valuable, rather than who they know, like the current social network structure. So we value more of the person that you are and what kind of value you can provide, rather than who your circumstantial social network happens to be based on the school you went to or the friends that you currently have or your family. And so Sensay has a foundation of AI. There's a machine learning layer that allows it to get smarter as you use it. It acts like a contact in every messenger, so it's interoperable between any major messenger, Facebook Messenger, Telegram, Kik, Slack, anything that you use, including SMS. And you basically just text Sensay anytime you need to chat with someone, and it will connect you to the right person based on the conversation you want to have. At the end of the chat, you can give a tip. So at the end of the chat, you can choose to tip in what we called Sensay coins. And this was really it's a value system that was kind of like Reddit karma points.
Yeah.
Where it really only works within its own system. And so as we built up to millions of these coins that were earned, people kept asking us the number one question from our user was, what are these coins worth? What is the value that I'm really getting? And so we tested a bunch of different methods. We put in things like PayPal and Stripe. We tried to see if people would exchange fiat currency in a tipping format, but the micro tipping is too difficult with normal payment systems with your bank account and with credit cards.
Yeah.
And so we then decided that it would be better to give everyone a value exchange where they can just take this digital currency they already have and exchange it for other digital value. And so we created Sense, SENSE, and Sense is the value for your human intelligence.
I had like three questions while you were talking, but just one very specific one is I had a conversation with Jackson Palmer, who I know you know. I saw you in an interview with him, and he was really talking about how he was sort of disappointed because in 2013 he really thought cryptocurrency was supposed to be Venmo, but Venmo in traditional payment methods has now just sort of overtaken the market. And I was sort of like, well, why isn't there why aren't all the 20-year-old kids using some app to move cryptocurrency around, just like they are using Venmo to move regular money around? I'm curious on your thoughts on that, but also could Sensay be that?
We would love for everyone to make sense. And I think that that's a big thing that we've been working towards is making it accessible. When you have a well ingrained traditional structure, people just stick with it. I was recently in Mexico and I went pretty far into the Mayan ruins and saw the Visa and MasterCard logos, on these little shops that are selling these beautiful handcrafted items, and they were hand painted logos. And I was thinking to myself, at some point in time, these are going to be hand painted crypto logos, whatever that crypto is. Maybe it's Bitcoin or Ethereum, or maybe it's Sense. And so, it's really interesting because even way out there, they try to provide the internet service, needed to build the infrastructure to accept credit cards because that's what the most people use. So I think it's really a matter of usage. And at this point, crypto is very attractive to people because they're seeing what the growth potential is. And, I think that it's going to continue that way for some time. And then in the future, it will likely taper off and it won't be as aggressive. But right now, it's a really good onboarding method. And so for the 20-some-year-olds, I would really like to see them using it. I think that there's still a huge barrier based on how complicated the wallets are. So we have crypto in chat, and that's the best format that we think that people use today. More people use chat messengers than any other apps on their phone. So, for us, that's the exact place that we're putting it, right in the chat stream. And I would love to see more people really embracing this instant transfer. We focus more on the strangers, though. We think of every human like a wallet address. So we look at everybody anonymously and we connect them together more based on the value that they can exchange together. And today that's, in conversation, that's your stories or that's your information. And tomorrow that might be a physical product. Maybe it's a ticket to a concert or something like that. And we're connecting them around, what they need.
You guys work on SMS and Facebook Messenger and sort of any messaging platform. Is it literally any messaging platform, or are there still some you've got to tackle?
It's everything that we have a relationship with. We have some beta actually Skype, which we're on right now. So we have our beta product in Skype. We have beta in WeChat, Line, Kakao for the Asian markets. And I was just in Asia, spent over a month there, 8 countries in 35 days, 20 stages that I was able to do talks on. I was really fortunate to be invited to different countries and speak on crypto, and in general speak on Sense and what we're building with Sensay. And I think every market has a different messenger, so we're looking to put Sense now inside of each one. We have shifted, though, from a product company to a platform company. So Sensay is a great product, and we built 3 million users who were transacting 20 plus million coins before moving into Sense. And what we realized was that the underlying technology that we built was far more powerful than a single application. Mm-hmm. So now we're allowing anyone to build a product like Sensay on top of any messenger using the Sense platform. So we're providing the API that lets you do that, and we are looking for developers to join in the network and keep building with us. So far today, we have 1,200 developers signed up, which is really amazing. Yeah. And of those, 400 of them have purchased $1.5 million worth of Sense tokens to use on the network. What our big goal is to allow you to own your data, wherever it is that you're making contributions online. So today we have in our testnet, we have the ability for you to take your GitHub data or your Reddit data and make money on that. So you basically earn cents. You earn cents tokens when you connect those pieces of data because it understands more about you, and then it connects you into the global database. We have a distributed network, so it's called the Sense Distributed Network. And that distributed network compiles all the data of all the humans together. So if you are to build an application, you can pay in Sense to access these two channels. So either you access the human by sending them a bot or a person into their messenger, and they'll respond to you, or you access the human data, and this helps you to create a community if you're building a new app. So you create a community by finding these people and bringing them into your application, or you can connect to their data. Meaning, as a brand partner, we have Nike as one of the first that has Sense tokens that are using Sense to access the network. So Nike might want to talk to people that are talking about sports, and so it will look for their contact, or it will look for their data, and maybe it wants to understand, what's the sentiment of everybody who's been talking about football, since we've announced the Super Bowl finalists, something like that. And so they can get that data, they pay cents. Now, if Nike wanted to contribute data, they could do that too. So if they have a network of users who are all using their application, and that application is running on the Sense protocol, they can contribute the data and they'll get paid in cents. And the cents passes through to the user. So when Nike is paying for the user's data or for their connection, cents goes directly to the user. This is where the user earns money. So unlike Facebook, where you're giving all your data and then Facebook takes that data, sells it to the advertisers, earns $8.5 billion dollars per quarter on it, and you earn nothing. This is different. This is, we want you to earn whatever that amount is. Usually it's $2 to $5 that they'll pay per connection. So we want you to earn cents for those connections.
Not only does Facebook make me into a product and they get all my data, but I can't even see the data. I'm up in San Francisco today and saw Miko Matsumura on a panel speak yesterday. He was like, these ICOs are coming out and their roadmap doesn't deliver anything until 2019. And he's like, that's just not acceptable. And I mean, you guys have been around for 3 years. You're like the old players on the playground, What does that kind of perspective give you when you look at ICO, blockchain, crypto space?
Well, I think there are two kinds of companies. There's BC, like before crypto, and AD or AC, after crypto.
Yeah.
The ICO market is really interesting. So, the first ICO happened in 2013 with Mastercoin. And if you think about it, even Ethereum was an ICO. I find myself really fortunate to have known the founders of these and to be along the path as these things have happened, because that helped me become an early contributor in these projects. For me, what has happened is those original ICOs truly were because they were creating a token. They were creating a coin for the purpose of having a coin. It was not a token that was inserted into a business that may have been able to operate without one. So what has happened is, there are the traditional venture-backed companies, and that's what Sensay is. Sensay raised $6 million from traditional VCs. We have people like Tim Draper, who we respect a lot, Norwest, Greycroft, Quest Venture Partners, Sweet Capital. So we have a lot of very, very well-known, very established VCs who have backed us early on. And so we're kind of a hybrid. When we decided to do a token sale, we had to talk to our cap table and explain to them what this capital was. The token sale brings in non-dilutive capital. When you raise in crypto. And so that also means that your bank account balance could potentially be fluctuating day by day if you choose not to liquidate. A lot of companies are raising, and they're, some of the very famous ones that have made mistakes are taking their crypto and they're turning it into bonds, or they're turning it into real estate, or they're turning it into fiat. For me, that's not what I believe in. I think that the market needs to sustain itself by having more believers in crypto. And so we fundamentally believe that we should keep as much as possible in crypto. And for that, we've offered to pay our whole team in cryptocurrency instead of fiat. And we're expanding very rapidly globally. And that's the other beautiful part about crypto. It's a global economy. So, we operate in the jurisdiction that we establish our headquarters, but truly we're global. This is a global economy. Opening up an ICO means that you now have investors in 50 countries, which is far different than our investors on our cap table previously, which are primarily from California. We had one out of London, one out of Hong Kong, and Korea. Actually, NHN, which is the main investor in Line Messenger. But other than that, I think that what's happening now with ICOs is that they're starting with zero. So they're starting from the ground and they're saying, okay, we are writing a pitch deck, and traditionally we would go try to get angel money for this, and we would get gouged on our valuation. We would have to give up tons of equity. And this is still a theoretical idea. We still have a lot of hypotheses to test. We still don't know very much about what our market is or what this product's going to do. We just need someone to trust us with their first $1 million. And so that's why you give up as much equity as possible. The crowd sale, method came around, and we had Kickstarter, and Kickstarter showed us a different model. But that only works for like one-off products, really. And then the Jobs Act came around and said, okay, let's do true crowdfunding. Let's let non-accredited investors invest a lot of money into companies and also take equity. Because the problem with Kickstarter is you get no equity. You get the product.
Yeah.
Out of the 40 Kickstarters that I backed, I've gotten no equity. And so for the successful companies, that doesn't really do a lot for my risk that I took up front, with that capital. So I think an ICO is the best of all the worlds, because it really does let a community member put in as much money or as little money as they want to be a participant. It gives them somewhat of an upside. So it's not the same as equity, but it is an upside because you get a value that increases with the overall network, and you're instantly liquid. So another big problem for an angel investor, I have this issue, is I still have my money locked up in companies from 5 years ago and no promise of exiting. So you're instantly liquid. And that's the other big benefit of an ICO, is that when you put your money in, that you're going to be able to take your money out at any time. And it's up to you when you want to do that. So I think the model's changed quite a bit, and it's for the positive.
I also like that in an ICO environment, it feels like, assuming you've got a good idea, that the effort matches the reward to a greater degree, where in like the traditional space, you can knock on 80 doors and get no, and it can be pretty demoralizing, for anybody. And that's probably part of what separates the successful, companies in the traditional model, is just that grit of the founder. And it still requires a lot of grit, obviously, in an ICO world, but the crowd coming in reflects more of your effort instead of trying to get that one magical investor that comes through.
Yeah, and I think that's the other really beautiful part about it. So, at the core of Sensay, we believe in direct connections. What this has offered is the ability to connect with everyone globally and find the people who are interested in what you're working on. It's been really, really humbling to go to other countries and find fans of what we are building. When I went to Taiwan, I had gone to the Taiwan Blockchain Summit. They generously offered to have me speak. And when I was there, we had a group of people who were really excited about Sense and what the project was. I had developers who came up to me and said they had already bought tokens. They brought me the white paper, and
that's gonna feel great. That's gonna feel great just to show up there and they're already in your community.
It was amazing, and they even asked me to sign autographs on the white paper.
Awesome.
Oh,
that's awesome.
And I think that's what we are, a globally connected society, and the only things that are inhibiting us from being better and faster are these incumbent centralized institutions that are keeping us locked to geography, and specifically money. Money is doing that in a really substantial way. So this is just really changing. It's changing the way that people can vote and operate, and with their value. And I like to change the word money into value, because I think that in what this crypto space is doing for us, and blockchain as well, is it's showing us that our value lies in other places than just the dollars that we earn.
What a great snapshot, like to travel, to 8 different countries right now in crypto. I'm curious, like if you were there long enough to notice a difference in each country's like sort of blockchain culture. I'll give you an example. Like even moving from the Bay Area a month and a half ago to Los Angeles, I got to Los Angeles, went to a bunch of meetups, and I was really aware of how I felt like the Los Angeles crypto community was just more open and friendly and really inviting and enthusiastic. There was a little bit more of a childlike enthusiasm that was really energizing.
I think that we in LA are definitely living at blockchain beach. It's like we were previously called Silicon Beach, and I think that blockchain beach is a lot more appropriate. The amount of saturation of founders here working in the crypto space and working on blockchain based products, it's been this way for many years and is now becoming really apparent. I think LA definitely has a much different, like you said, enthusiasm within the space. So it's really amazing. I see several ICOs a week. I'm centered around a lot of different people who are really big into the space. So it's been awesome because I feel like this is really where you've seen LA kind of go through entertainment and gaming, and I think that gaming and crypto go really hand in hand, and so it's just natural for us here in LA. It's natural for the market.
Awesome. Well, I hope we can do this again. It's been really, really informative, educational for me. I'd love to keep track of how things develop for you guys. Like, what is next for you and Sensay the next 3 to 6 months?
Thank you so much, and I'm really happy to have chatted with you too. I'm excited to keep listening to your podcast and get educated as well.
Thank you.
You're doing really good work. For us, the next couple of months, we are right now heads down staffing out our team. So we are hiring actively. We have a lot of open roles for different types of people, and so we've been bringing them in. We will be releasing our roadmap shortly. So we're excited that we hit our goal in the ICO. And
congratulations.
Thank you. And also that allows us to actionably achieve everything on our roadmap. We're really excited because we've been groomed really well as a venture-backed company on how to keep our investors informed and how to achieve actionable milestones. So, like Miko from ICO Governance Foundation was mentioning, we have to have accountability for companies that are raising a token sale to make sure that they're continuing to achieve the things on their roadmap. So we're going to be launching in the next month a very comprehensive roadmap, letting everybody know exactly what we're working on. And we'll be communicating as much as possible. I'm excited to also be releasing the developer network. So as that comes out, you'll see a lot of apps come up, and makesense.com should be full of ways to earn cents.
Awesome. We'll make sure that we get those links from you and put them in the show notes. And I've got one last question for you, Crystal. Tell me about Mojo, the head of happiness on your team.
Mojo the Dogo. He's a 7-year-old Dogo Argentino and American Bulldog mix. He's a rescue from here in LA, from a place called Recycled Pets when he was a puppy. And Mojo has always been with me through all these experiences. He comes to the office every day. We're dog friendly, so we actually have a second bulldog in our office named Butch, who was recently dropped off on the doorstep of our office manager's house.
Oh.
And I think it's like it's the biggest blessing in the world because Mojo now has a comrade. We really love and embrace having family, having our pets with us. We see our whole team as family, and so that's been really helpful along the way. And when you're operating as a team, that can be a little bit more fluid, and things go really well. So. Yeah, Mojo has been with us since the beginning. He's been helping everybody get their work done. Even back when we were at co-working spaces, Mojo was coming with us.
He's a very good-looking dog.
Thank you.
Crystal, thank you so much. This was awesome. My editor, Dan, just sent me a note and was like, this is going to be so easy to edit. So you made him happy. And the content was great. Thank you so much.
Oh, amazing. Thank you. It's been so wonderful chatting with you. Thanks again for adding me.
Well, maybe I'll see you on the next crypto hike.
Absolutely. We'll bring Mojo.
Up next on Coloring Crypto. Michelle worked at PayPal for 6 years, now is into crypto, and last week she posted an online request for the names of 100 women in crypto to pay attention to. Within days, the list blew up to over 200. The list, called 200 Thought Leaders in Crypto and Blockchain, is now trending on Medium.
So my name is Michelle Tsng. I am an entrepreneur, and I also work on a lot of blockchain and AI projects.
I became aware of you when you put out a call on Facebook and were sort of asking for folks to share who are the important or impactful women in crypto. First, can you tell us where do people who want to sort of follow along with that, where do they find the list that you ultimately published?
Yeah, so they are, the list is on Medium under, if you search for 200 plus thought leaders in crypto and blockchain, you will be able to find it.
I was excited to see, what I thought was going to be the top 100 women, and then you called it, 200 thought leaders, and so there's 200 people in there, but as far as I can tell, they're all women. Is that right?
Correct.
I loved it. Okay, that was hilarious.
Yeah, so, someone wrote 100 people in crypto lists, and there were 8 women, so 8% of the 100, right? And so when I was drafting my list, I was, at first I wanted 100, women in crypto and blockchain, but it was so overwhelming that I received more than 200 recommendations and more, even today. Basically every day I get more and more, women. And when I was thinking of the name, I was thinking about, well, I don't want to call, because they're people, but yet I don't want to use people because the list contains people and I don't want to confuse the two lists. So, I think of them, for the panel situation as thought leaders. Because I went to a few panels and they were literally 2 women, and all the ICO contests were all men. And then I went to another event and it was all men, so I'm just thinking, well, women founders are thought leaders first and then women. So I think it makes sense to call the list 200 plus thought leaders in crypto and blockchain.
We've sort of, it's a spoiler alert for folks. I guess we ruined the punchline because it was really a fun experiment or just experience when I went to the website and I was like, I thought she was going to do women. And I'm like, wait a minute, these are all women. Tell us a little bit about your methodology of pulling this together, how you came up with these names, and just your thinking around it.
Yeah, sure. So I'll tell you my story. So, again, I went to a few conferences and there were no woman speakers on the panels, right? There were one who spoke about, intimate.io, and she's great, so that is sex and the blockchain, and then another person, Penny, who used to do securities law, right? And then when it was time for the ICO presentation, literally it was all men. And I do media. I'm a talk show host at Laptop Radio at Stanford University. So I was sitting in the front row, being there until 7 or 7:30 p.m. and I was streaming it, and I didn't want it to stop my streaming, so I was basically stuck there.
Yeah.
So it was really annoying to see, and watch and with all men after men, right? So then I came back, and I was an attorney at PayPal. In the legal department, it was a majority woman, right? So I was just like, is there no woman, in the blockchain space, and I was working on a blockchain company with a friend since 2015, that is in the payment space. So I was just really curious. And, in 2014, 2015, there were, blockchain is not that hot, right? I mean, people don't really know what we're doing,
right.
I basically, put in, I think, a few communities, that I'm part of. So my initial ask was, I am creating 100 women in crypto lists. Who should I add, right? And I think it was only 5 communities. It's quite small, and, one of the community was just a majority men, and so everyone contributed. And I think I worked on it for like half a day, and I was like, whoa. I think that's when I sent you an email or a text and say, hey, I have 51 women already, right?
Yeah.
So by the time I was done with what I had at that time, I had over 200. And then the most funniest thing was there were men who, when I post and share the list, they're like, oh, I don't see my name on the list.
Oh, no way. That's hilarious. Okay, let me ask you this. As you were getting the names, what were some of the names that just kept coming up?
Before I met and discover the list of all the women, I only know a few. And I went to a Berkeley blockchain conference and I met Joshua and a few attorneys there, as well as the SEC. And then I also heard of Laura Shin because one of my friend who's a VC talks about her a lot, in his Bitcoin meeting at on Lecter Island. So I've heard of Laura. And then later on, I think I met Amy Wan because she's in, one of the group called Crypto Central on Facebook. And she speaks a lot on smart contracts. And, recently I also saw her speak at a conference. The aha moment, though, is when I look at the woman and then each woman I check their LinkedIn profile, right? I mean, I gathered all their LinkedIn profile by myself, actually.
Oh, cool.
At the beginning. Just to verify them. And then later on, I got smarter and I was just like, guys, can you guys give me your LinkedIn profile? So the whole process of, getting names and looking for names and looking for the LinkedIn profile, and just really looking through the profile, that activity was really awesome.
We had Amy on actually in episode 15, and she's on the sort of legal side of things. She's a lawyer doing blockchain stuff. Did you get a sense of what sort of parts of the blockchain industry the 201 thought leaders were most involved in? How many of these women are developers?
There are a number of them. Preeta, she codes. One of my co-founder on the blockchain startup is a coder, actually. She's an engineer. So I myself work with her. And another male engineer all the time. So, I guess, the team is 2 men and 2 women, right? So I'm kind of used to seeing female coders. But I think the most important part of that is not that crypto coders are more important, and then you have people who, organize meetups, and bring people together to talk about blockchain and crypto.
So you got a list of 201 thought leaders that are all women in crypto. I opened my last episode with Rachel Cook from Seeds with that sort of astounding statistic that the Miami Crypto Conference panel had 1 woman on the panel, or out of the speakers out of 75. What is the state of women in crypto in general? Like, is it something that needs to be like raise the flags? Is it, did you get more people than you thought on this list? Like what's your kind of take on this?
I was doing 100 women at first, and I think we have over 201 now. I mean, I think we have maybe 250. I really didn't know what to expect, actually, when I was working on it. I was just really annoyed that I had to go to conferences with no women. So I was like, well, I'll do a 100 woman list. Like, who are these people? And who are these thought leaders and where are they? And of course, I was really impressed. I was, surprised. I was really wowed by everyone. And so I had I told you when I was working on it, it took me a day and a half. I have over 200 already, so I can't call it like 100 women. I can't call it 200 women, and I don't want it to call it woman. And then after that, I decided to do, like an 100 woman, a men list, because men keep providing me their names.
And when did you tell us your the first time you sort of heard of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, and then the arc of when you finally dove in, or sort of you really got it?
Yeah, sure. So I in 2013 I volunteer at VLab, which is a nonprofit organization that held conferences, and they bring the disruptive technology with the people in the industry, right? So in 2013, I help organize a conference called Virtual Currency, and Ripple was there, Coinbase was there, the Winklevoss brother were there, and I think at that time the price of the Bitcoin was, $30 something. And for me, I kind of get it. And the funniest thing is, it's natural for me, working at PayPal, which is really a payment company that still, as an attorney, you basically had to educate a lot of people, because you speak a different language, right? So, and how does that translate to virtual money? I mean, I think it's the same, but it's a little bit different, right? Because it's on the blockchain ledger, which is a public ledger. And then in 2015, one of my brother's friend wants to actually change the whole infrastructure of payments. So it was really interesting. And, so he came to me and he wanted to do this, and it just took me 5 minutes. He told me, what he wanted to do. I basically printed something, crossed out something, and I was like, is this what you want? And he said, yes. So it was super awesome, right? I'm just like, I know exactly what you wanted to do. So I drafted a patent on it. And yeah, it's just, really scaling, the blockchain payments, and changing the whole infrastructure. So it's very pretty awesome. Yeah.
Okay, so what have you got your eyes on, like right now? Like, what do you kind of like wake up and pay attention to in terms of the crypto world?
I'm thinking about, how does blockchain change the internet?
How does it change the internet?
Well, I think it causes decentralization, right? And how does that balance with, privacy and security? So I had a friend who a couple years ago had built something for like Twitter on blockchain, but Twitter on blockchain is not for dissemination of information, kind of like a broadcast, but it's for keeping information safe, and to save it for the people who need to read the information when they may not be allowed to right now. And I've met other companies who, keep receipts, insurance receipts, safe information on the blockchain, right? As for validation, or those better companies than BToken or Gems, which is essentially the same business model on the blockchain. Even in the payment space, I think a lot of problems haven't been solved yet, right? I mean, fees are still really high. Things, it's, like, where can you find coins at which exchanges, right? And it's still not at an optimal state that we want it to be.
Where's the best place for people that want to kind of like, find out more about the projects you're talking about and just sort of find out about what you're doing? How should they get a hold of you or just sort of pay attention to what you're up to?
You can find me on Facebook, /M1CQ113, or at the Medium post. I did create a ICO best practices list that may be helpful for people who wanted to put together an ICO. It's not meant to be legal and investor advice, but I think it's a good checklist. Where if you're planning to do an ICO, you can, kind of look at all the primary sources that I have. And also on YouTube, I have a laptop radio.
Awesome. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And I look forward to another conversation.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for hosting me.
Daniel Shanken is with CryptoPsychedelic. They're bringing together some of the leaders in psychedelic research and the blockchain in a matter of days, February 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of 2018 in Tulum, Mexico. And get this, they still have tickets available. You could attend.
My name's Daniel Shanken, and I work I'm working on something called CryptoPsychedelic, which is an event that's bringing some of the brightest minds of blockchain and some of the brightest minds of psychedelic science and drug policy reform to one big conference in beautiful Tulum, Mexico.
How and when did you guys come up with this?
I've been working with Symposia for a couple of years. Symposia is a news website, and they throw events around things like drug policy reform, psychedelic science, research. Those events are really well attended. And a couple of us have been interested in cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and Dogecoin and whatnot for a while too. And we started talking to some folks that were a little bit more on the other side of the aisle, if you will. They were a little bit more tuned into crypto and a little less tuned into psychedelics, but still very fascinated by it. And so we kind of just decided to cross the streams.
So crypto and psychedelics, like what can we expect, or what do you expect from this sort of, you've got my art and your peanut butter?
Right. I mean, well, what I expect is to have more questions than when I went in, and hopefully a better class of questions, more informed and exciting questions.
Can people sign up and attend this, or is it a closed event?
We still have tickets. There's going to be a meet and greet on February 2nd, and the bulk of the programming will be on the 3rd. There'll be panels all day. And then on the 4th, there'll be some light programming. There'll be yoga and sound healing. There'll be a psychedelic integration circle, which is one of my favorite parts.
What was the first time you ever heard of cryptocurrency or Bitcoin? Do you remember where you were and what you were doing?
Well, it was actually my history itself is kind of crypto-psychedelic. I have a friend, Dr. Nishay Devaneux, who is a professor at the University of Puget Sound. And she was working on her doctorate. We both lived in Philadelphia. And she was going to Penn. And she asked me to help her with a conference called Psychedemia, which ended up being the first psychedelic science conference sponsored by an Ivy League university. And so I helped her with that, and we became friends. She was running a reading group, and we would read things like Terence McKenna, and we would read things, visionary poetry and things like that. And there was a guy in the group who was really excited because Bitcoin had just hit $200.
Uh-huh.
And he had bought it at $6. It's 2013. I was like, that sounds amazing. And he described it to me, and I liked the idea as much as I could understand it. And I made him sell me $100 worth. And I got something and I was a little mad that he wouldn't give me a whole Bitcoin. But he was like, no. He was like, the market value of your $100 is 0.54613 or something like that. And so for $100, he gave me, half a Bitcoin. Some of which I still have.
Tell us more about the organization.
Well, what you're familiar with Terence McKenna? Have you heard of him?
Terence McKenna, yes.
He was a prolific writer and philosopher. And one of the things he came up with was the stoned ape theory, which was that psychedelic mushrooms helped apes evolve into beings that use language. But one of the things that he said is society has a tendency to put all of their eggs in one basket, and that psychedelics start to make you want to maybe weave some of your own baskets, and that you might find that just towing the line and believing the dogmas that are laid out for you don't work, and you want more options. And so a lot of the people who are doing research, anthropological, biological research in the field of psychedelics, harm reduction, those sorts of things, are creating new baskets for people. And that's also kind of what I see is what's happening in the blockchain world, is that people want new opportunities for who they have to trust and how they get to, create value, and how they get to move stores of wealth around, and how they get to enter into contracts with one another.
What's one of the speakers or panels that you're kind of really looking forward to?
We have a psychedelic research panel where scientists who are doing various like high-level research, like people are working to reschedule MDMA because they found that it's really positive for things like PTSD. It treats end-of-life anxiety, people who have anxiety around having cancer, and all sorts of things. And then there's an advocacy panel where folks like Betty Aldsworth, who was really instrumental in the legalization in Colorado. So she'll be speaking. One of the lawyers for MAPS will be speaking, Izzy. And so people will be talking about how to create a more sensible drug policy. And then there'll be some crypto panels. And then there'll be the real meeting of the minds, which will be the CryptoPsychedelic panel.
For folks that are just hearing about this conference and their interest has peaked, who would you say should come?
I would say people should come if you had a sense that there was something significant about a psychedelic experience that you had, or that you had a sense that maybe you're a researcher and you're curious about psychedelic research that's happening, and you want to educate yourself beyond what's happening in the mainstream media, and you want sort of a peek into a world of some very, very intelligent people doing some really meaningful work in the world that's really helping people, then they should come. And by the same token, get it, token? If you want to,
insert laugh track.
Yeah, thanks. You're good. You're a lovely crowd. By the same token, if you are interested in blockchain and you want to be able to come to a crypto conference that is really that isn't centered around ICOs, then you can come and you can come and have conversations. And if you want to talk to people about how these two technologies might further human development, then we definitely want you there.
You know, it's really cool to me in the sense that, I mean, I think to get on the kind of the front of the curve of blockchain development, you know, technology through all time, it seems like, is kind of happening the fastest in these sort of outliers, whether it be like illegal activities, you know, like Silk Road kind of like really driving Bitcoin use, pornography driving technology use, you know, illegal, psychedelics are generally illegal in the US. And that would almost lead me to believe that the folks that are sort of the thought leaders in that space are going to have some of the most kind of like evolved or advanced ideas about the blockchain. Would you agree?
Would I agree? I sure hope so. It's my sense that we tend to create technologies that mirror the way our minds and our consciousness work, and that we continue to do so in more sophisticated and subtle ways. And there's a story in Hindu mythology called Indra's net. Do you know Indra's net?
No, I can't wait to hear about it.
Indra's net is the idea that there's this net of jewels, like 1 million different jewels, and each jewel perfectly reflects every other jewel that surrounds it. And this is this mythological metaphor for consciousness and how all beings contain the whole within inside of them. And that reminds me a lot of how a distributed ledger works. And I think that experience is something that people who have explored psychedelics have seen. And it's now becoming made manifest.
For folks that are interested, you can go to CryptoPsychedelic.com. It's really soon, so sign up now, and I'm excited to hear about it afterwards. I'll have to check out the videos, and we'll put out a blast and maybe have you back on when you get back.
Okay, I really think you should move your schedule around and try and get down here.
That's great. I'm glad you said that because I didn't even consider it, just, you know, caught up in what I think is my so busy, important life. But maybe I will take a look at that.
Good. So I'll see you down there.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Have a great time and let us know how it goes.
Awesome. Be well.
Thank you. Bye.
Coloring Crypto is brought to you by Affordable Jerseys, home of the player trade guarantee. Check them out at affordablejerseys.com. For a full list of our sponsors, go to coloringcrypto.com/sponsors.